I stood frozen in my doorway as my parents pulled up in a rented moving truck without warning. My father claimed they were helping me move to a studio apartment. I never agreed to rent. My phone buzzed with a delivery confirmation for my sister Amy's baby furniture, scheduled to arrive at my address in 2 hours. I realized with growing horror that my parents had orchestrated an elaborate scheme to take my house and give it to my pregnant sister without my knowledge or consent. The house I lived in was my pride and joy. At 32 years old, I had worked incredibly hard to afford this 3-bedroom home in a peaceful neighborhood. 5 years ago, when I first got the keys, the place needed serious work. The previous owners had let it deteriorate, but I saw potential where others saw problems. Every weekend for 2 years, I dedicated myself to renovations. I installed new hardwood floors throughout, renovated the outdated kitchen with modern appliances, and transformed the backyard from an overgrown mess into a peaceful retreat with a stone patio. My career as a software engineer at a growing tech company provided the financial stability to make these improvements. I chose each upgrade carefully, knowing I was building not just a house but a home where I could potentially raise a family someday. The neighborhood had excellent schools, friendly neighbors, and was close enough to downtown for an easy commute. After the renovations were complete, the property value increased significantly, something I was quietly proud of. For most of my life, I had a good relationship with my parents, Gary and Susan. They lived about 40 minutes away in the suburb where I grew up, and we had dinner together at least twice a month. My sister Amy was 4 years younger than me and had always been treated differently. Growing up, she rarely faced consequences for missed curfews or poor grades, while I was held to strict standards. I accepted this dynamic long ago, focusing on building my own life rather than comparing our treatment. Things started to change 6 months ago when Amy announced she was pregnant. She and her husband Jack had been married for 2 years, and this news transformed our family dynamics overnight. Suddenly, every conversation revolved around the baby. My parents spoke of nothing else, which was fine until they started making subtle comments about my house. "It must be lonely in that big house all by yourself," my mother remarked during a Sunday dinner. 3 bedrooms for one person seems excessive. I use the second bedroom as an office, I explained, and the third is a guest room for when friends visit. My father nodded thoughtfully. "Family should help family. Your sister will need more space with the baby coming." These comments increased in frequency and directness as Amy's pregnancy progressed. At a family barbecue last month, I overheard my mother talking to my Aunt Janet. "Kevin should really share his good fortune," she said quietly. "Amy and Jack are cramped in that apartment, and he has all that extra space going to waste." My girlfriend Laura noticed the pattern before I did. We had been dating for a year, and she often joined me at family functions. "Your parents seem really focused on your house lately," she observed after one particularly uncomfortable dinner. "It's like they think you owe Amy your space." 2 weeks ago, my parents asked to see my house deed for insurance purposes. They claimed they were updating their files in case of emergencies. I should have questioned it more, but I wanted to believe their intentions were good. Meanwhile, work kept me busy. My company allowed remote work 3 days a week, which I treasured. My home office overlooking the backyard garden made those days productive and peaceful. I had built relationships with neighbors, joined the local community garden, and finally felt settled. The thought of moving had never crossed my mind. Last Sunday, I was browsing rental listings out of curiosity about the market when I discovered something that made my blood run cold. There was my house, listed for rent, with photos I had never taken. The listing promised availability next month and included interior shots that must have been taken when I wasn't home. I immediately called my parents, who didn't answer. I then called Amy, who sounded nervous and said she needed to go. That was when I first suspected something wasn't right, but even then, I couldn't have imagined the extent of what they were planning. Tuesday morning started like any other work-from-home day. I made coffee, responded to emails, and joined a video conference with my team. Around 11:30, I heard the rumble of a large vehicle outside. Glancing through my front window, I saw a 15-foot yellow moving truck pulling into my driveway. Behind it, my parents' blue sedan parked at the curb. Confusion turned to disbelief as my father jumped out of the truck cab wearing work gloves, while my mother emerged from their car clutching a folder of papers. Neither had called to say they were coming. I stepped onto the porch, coffee mug still in hand, as they approached with determined expressions. "Surprise!" my mother called out, as if this unannounced arrival with a moving truck was a birthday party. "We're here to help you pack." "Pack for what?" I asked, genuinely bewildered. My father clapped a hand on my shoulder. "For your move, son. We found you a great studio apartment downtown, much more suitable for a single guy. Less maintenance." I stared at them, trying to process what was happening. "I'm not moving." "Who told you I was moving?" My mother opened her folder and pulled out rental application papers. "We put a deposit down already. It's a really nice place, Kevin. Just 15 minutes from your office." They brushed past me into the house, my father calling back to the truck driver to wait for instructions. Inside, I was shocked to discover several boxes already packed with my books and kitchenware. "When did you pack these?" I asked, finding my voice rising with alarm. "Yesterday, when you were at that work meeting," my mother said casually. "I used the key you gave us for emergencies. I just started with non-essentials." My father was examining the living room furniture, apparently assessing what would fit in this mysterious studio apartment. "The movers will be here at 2 to help with the heavy stuff," he announced. "We should focus on personal items first." I set my mug down with enough force that coffee sloshed onto the counter. "Stop. Just stop. I'm not moving anywhere. This is my house. I never agreed to any apartment." They exchanged that look parents give when they think their child is being difficult. My mother pushed the rental papers toward me. "It's all taken care of. We've already signed as your guarantors." That's when I noticed my signature on the application. Except it wasn't my signature at all, someone had forged it, attempting to mimic my handwriting but missing several distinctive features. "You forged my signature?" I held up the paper, hand shaking with anger and shock. "We had to move quickly," my father said dismissively. "The rental market is competitive. Amy and Jack will be moving in here by the weekend." My phone pinged with a notification. It was a delivery service confirming that a crib, changing table, and nursery glider would arrive at my address between 1 and 3 that afternoon. "Why is Amy's baby furniture being delivered to my house?" I demanded. My mother brightened. "Oh good, they're on schedule. We used your address for all the baby registry items. So much easier than having them delivered to their apartment and then moving everything again." The full picture was becoming horrifyingly clear. My phone rang. It was Laura. I answered immediately, needing her steadying presence. "I'm 5 minutes away," she said without preamble. "Your mom called me yesterday saying they were helping you move and asked if I could pick up some boxes." "Please hurry," I replied, not caring that my parents heard the desperation in my voice. While waiting for Laura, I tried reasoning with my parents. "You can't just decide I'm moving. This is my house. I own it. And family helps family," my father countered firmly. "Amy needs a stable home for the baby. That apartment of theirs is too small and in a bad school district. That doesn't mean she gets my house. It's just temporary," my mother insisted, though her averted eyes suggested otherwise. "Until they can save for their own place." "How temporary?" I pressed. "Well, they'll want the baby to start school here eventually," my father mumbled. Laura arrived in record time, taking in the scene with widening eyes as I quickly explained the situation. Her presence gave me strength. "Show me these rental documents," she said. After examining them, she looked up gravely. "Kevin, these aren't just application forms. These are completed lease agreements, with what appears to be your forged signature." The doorbell rang. A courier stood there with more papers. "Delivery for Kevin Marshall? These need your signature." I glanced at the documents. They were rental agreements for a storage unit, also with my forged signature on the application. The pieces fell into place. They planned to put most of my possessions into storage. "I'm not signing this," I told the courier. "These forms are fraudulent." As the confused courier left, I confronted my parents with the storage unit papers. "Exactly how long were you planning for me to live in this studio apartment with most of my belongings in storage?" Their silence was the only answer I needed. "You need to leave," I said firmly, pointing toward the door. "Now." Instead of complying, My father sat heavily on my couch. Son, you're not thinking clearly. This is what's best for everyone. Best for everyone? My voice cracked with disbelief. You forged my signature on legal documents. You're trying to take my house and move me into a studio without my consent. How is this best for me? My mother attempted to put her arm around my shoulders, but I stepped away. Kevin, honey, you're being selfish. Amy is starting a family. They need the space more than you do. Laura stepped forward, her expression calm but firm. Susan, Gary, I think Kevin has made it clear he's not moving. You should respect his decision about his own property. My father glared at her. This is a family matter. Laura is family to me, I said. And she's right. This is my decision, not yours. My phone rang again. It was Amy. I put it on speaker. Kevin? Her voice sounded anxious. Mom said you're being difficult about the move. Please don't be like this. We've already given notice at our apartment. We have to be out by the end of the month. The betrayal cut deeper. You gave notice before confirming I was giving you my house. Mom and Dad said it was all arranged, she replied defensively. They said you agreed weeks ago. Well, they lied. I never agreed to any of this. There was a pause, then Amy's voice turned tearful. But where are we supposed to go? We've already packed half our things. The call ended with Amy sobbing, and my parents looking at me like I was the villain in this scenario. I took a deep breath, trying to think clearly through the shock and anger. How did you even get into my house to take those listing photos? I asked suddenly, remembering the rental listing I'd discovered. My parents exchanged glances before my mother reluctantly reached into her purse and pulled out a house key, my house key. Where did you get that? I only ever gave you the spare for emergencies. We had it duplicated months ago, my father admitted without a hint of remorse. We needed to show Amy and Jack the place when you were at work. The violation of privacy hit me like a physical blow. You've been bringing them here behind my back? For how long? Since Amy found out she was pregnant, my mother said. They needed to take measurements and plan the nursery. Laura's hand found mine, squeezing it supportively as I tried to process this information. So for 6 months, you've been planning to take my house from me? Not take, my father corrected, as if the distinction mattered. Share. Family shares. A knock at the door interrupted us. It was my next-door neighbor, Diane. Sorry to bother you, Kevin, she said, looking curiously at the moving truck in the driveway. I just wanted to check if Saturday's still good for that community garden meeting. Yes, absolutely, I confirmed, grateful for the momentary return to normality. Great! Oh, and will your sister be joining? She mentioned she might when she and her husband were introducing themselves as your new neighbors last week. My stomach dropped. When was this? They've been by a few times, Diane said innocently. Lovely couple. They said they're moving in soon and expecting a baby. We're all excited to welcome them to the neighborhood. After Diane left, I turned to my parents, speechless with anger. Laura took my arm and guided me to the kitchen, away from them. Kevin, there's something else you need to see, she said quietly, pulling out her phone. She opened our family group chat and scrolled back several weeks. There were messages I'd never seen, apparently from a separate thread I wasn't included in. Amy's so excited about the house. Kevin is so generous to give up his place for the baby. We'll all help with the move next week. Message after message from aunts, uncles, and cousins, all discussing my generous sacrifice one I knew nothing about. Everyone knew about this except me, I said, the betrayal expanding beyond my immediate family to my extended relatives. Laura scrolled to more recent messages. There's worse, she said softly. A message from my mother to the group. Kevin may act surprised about the move when you see him. He's having a hard time letting go of the house, so we're handling the details for him. Please play along and be supportive. I walked back to the living room, phone in hand. You told everyone I agreed to this. You made me look like I'm having some kind of breakdown about a decision I never made. My father stood up, impatience finally breaking through his calm facade. Enough drama, Kevin. The movers will be here soon. Either start packing properly or we'll do it for you. I'm calling Amy, my mother announced, pulling out her phone. While she dialed, I walked to my spare bedroom and pushed open the door. Sure enough, there were paint swatches taped to the wall in soft nursery colors. A measuring tape lay on the windowsill. In the corner, a small stuffed bear sat in what would eventually be the crib spot, a placeholder for my future niece or nephew. In any other circumstance, I would have been happy to help Amy prepare for her baby. I would have gladly painted the nursery in whichever colors she chose if she had asked, if this had been her room to decorate in her own home. But the presumption that my entire house was now hers, that my life could be uprooted and rearranged without so much as a conversation, filled me with a cold fury. I returned to the living room just as my mother was finishing her call. Amy and Jack are on their way over, she announced with satisfaction. Once you talk to them, you'll see, this is the right thing to do. There's nothing to discuss, I insisted. I'm not giving up my house. It's not just about you anymore, my mother snapped, her patience finally breaking. There's a baby coming into this family. Your sister needs stability and support. And I don't? I countered. You're a single man with a good job, my father said dismissively. You can live anywhere. Amy and Jack are starting a family. Laura stepped forward again. I think you both need to leave now. Kevin has made his position clear. My mother turned to her with surprising hostility. This isn't your business, Laura. We're looking out for our family. I am part of Kevin's family, Laura responded firmly. And from what I can see, you're not looking out for him at all. As the tension in the room escalated, my phone pinged with another notification. I looked down to see a social media alert. Amy had posted photos of our new home online, featuring exterior shots of my house with captions about getting ready for baby. The post already had dozens of congratulatory comments. The depth of the deception was still unfolding, layer by layer, each revelation more shocking than the last. My own family had not only planned to take my house without my consent, but had created an entire false narrative around it, making me appear either generous or unstable, depending on which better served their purpose. Just as I was showing Laura the social media post, a large commercial van pulled up outside. Two men in uniform approached my front door, clipboard in hand. Delivery for Amy Marshall? The first man asked when I answered. There's no Amy Marshall here, I replied automatically. He checked his paperwork. This is the delivery address we have for the nursery furniture order. Baby crib, changing table, and glider chair. Before I could respond, my mother hurried over. Yes, that's correct. You can bring everything in. The nursery is the second bedroom on the right. Mom, stop, I said firmly. You can't direct deliveries to my house for Amy. The delivery men looked between us uncertainly. My father joined us at the door. There seems to be some confusion, he told the deliveryman. The furniture is for my daughter who's moving in this weekend. You can start bringing it in. No, I interjected firmly. I'm the homeowner, and I'm not authorizing this delivery. The situation grew more chaotic as a second vehicle pulled up the professional movers my parents had mentioned. 3 burly men got out and approached the house, clipboards and furniture blankets in hand. Marshall family move? Their leader asked, consulting his paperwork. Yes, that's us, my father confirmed, gesturing them toward the house. I stepped in front of him. No, there is no move happening today. The mover looked confused. We have an order to pack and transport household goods from this address to both a studio apartment and a storage facility. That order was placed without the homeowner's consent, Laura explained calmly. Kevin Marshall owns this house, and he's not moving. The lead mover scratched his head. Sir, we have paperwork signed by Kevin Marshall authorizing this move. Let me see that, I demanded. Sure enough, there was my forged signature again. That's not my signature. Someone forged it. As we argued on the porch, yet another car pulled up. Amy and Jack jumped out, looking anxious but determined. Amy's pregnancy was clearly visible now, her 7-month belly leading the way as she hurried up the walk. Kevin, what are you doing? She demanded. Why are you blocking the deliveries? We need to get the nursery set up. This isn't your house, Amy, I said, trying to keep my voice even. I never agreed to give it to you or move out. Jack stepped forward, his expression confrontational. Your parents said everything was arranged. We've already given notice at our apartment. Where do you expect us to live? That's not my problem, I replied. I never agreed to any of this. How can you be so selfish? Amy cried. tears forming in her eyes. "I'm having a baby. We need a proper home. And this is my proper home," I countered. "One that I bought, renovated, and pay the mortgage on." The situation was escalating rapidly. The delivery men had started unloading the baby furniture onto my lawn, while the movers stood by awaiting clear instructions. My parents were trying to direct traffic, telling the movers which of my possessions to pack first. Amy was crying dramatically while Jack paced angrily on my porch. "Mom, Dad, Amy, Jack, you all need to leave now," I said firmly. "Take the delivery back. Cancel the movers. This is not happening." "We're not going anywhere," Jack asserted, stepping closer to me with an intimidating posture. "This house will make a perfect family home for us and our baby. What do you need all this space for anyway? You're being completely selfish." "Careful," Laura warned him, stepping between us. "You're about to cross a line." Jack scoffed. "Stay out of this. You're not even family." "She's more family to me than you're acting right now," I shot back. The delivery men had managed to get the crib box onto my porch, and my father was directing them toward the door. At the same time, the movers had entered my living room and were eyeing my television and entertainment center. "Stop!" I shouted. But the chaos only seemed to increase. My mother was on the phone, apparently calling reinforcements, while Amy had moved to the nursery room and was removing the paint samples to replace them with new ones she'd brought. Then I heard a vehicle door slam and turned to see my Aunt Janet and Uncle Rob arriving. More cars were pulling up behind them, cousins and other extended family members, all apparently coming to help with the transition as my mother had phrased it in her call. "Kevin, honey," Aunt Janet called as she approached. "Your mom told us you're having a hard time with the move. We're here to support you." "There is no move," I insisted, feeling increasingly like I was shouting into the void. "Mom and Dad made this all up. I never agreed to give Amy my house." Uncle Rob patted my shoulder condescendingly. "It's okay to be emotional about leaving your first home, but you're doing a wonderful thing for your sister." "No, you don't understand," I tried again. "They forged my signature on rental agreements. They made this all up." Aunt Janet exchanged concerned glances with my mother. "Susan mentioned you might be struggling financially. There's no shame in needing to downsize, Kevin. We're just glad you're letting Amy and Jack use the house instead of selling it." The realization hit me like a truck. "Is that what they told you? That I'm having money problems?" "Well, yes," Uncle Rob confirmed awkwardly. "Your mother mentioned you might be too proud to admit it, but that the maintenance costs had become too much for you." I looked at my mother in disbelief. She avoided my gaze, suddenly very interested in directing my cousins who were carrying boxes from their cars. Boxes apparently meant for Amy's possessions. Inside, the movers had started wrapping my couch in moving blankets. Upstairs, I could hear furniture being shifted. Someone was already rearranging my bedroom. The baby furniture delivery men were arguing with Jack about where to put the boxes since I was blocking the front entrance. The situation had spiraled completely out of control. My home was being invaded from all sides. My possessions packed up without my consent. My private spaces violated. Family members I'd trusted were participants in this outrageous scheme. Either as active conspirators or as unwitting accomplices, fed a fabricated story about my financial difficulties. "Kevin," Laura said quietly, touching my arm, "this has gone too far. I think we need to call the police." She was right. Reasoning had failed. The truth was being ignored or twisted. My own family had created an elaborate fiction to justify taking my home, and they were now physically implementing their plan despite my explicit refusal. As I reached for my phone, Jack noticed and stepped toward me aggressively. "What are you doing? Who are you calling?" "Authorities who will actually listen when I say this is my house and I'm not giving it up," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "You wouldn't dare call the cops on your own family," my father interjected, his expression darkening. "Watch me," I replied, dialing the number as chaos continued to unfold around me. While waiting for the call to connect, I pulled out my phone and started recording video of the scene. Laura stood beside me, her presence a steady anchor in the storm of betrayal swirling around us. "What are you doing now?" my mother demanded, noticing the recording. "Documenting everything," I replied calmly. "The unauthorized movers, the delivery, all of you trespassing after I've asked you to leave." "Trespassing?" my father sputtered. We're your family. Family respects boundaries, I replied. Family doesn't forge signatures or lie to everyone about someone having financial problems. My cousin Mark approached, looking confused. Wait, you're not having money trouble? Mom and Aunt Susan said you needed to downsize because you couldn't afford the mortgage anymore. I'm doing fine financially, I stated firmly. They made that up to justify taking my house for Amy. Doubt flickered across several relatives' faces as my statement sank in. The narrative my parents had constructed was beginning to crumble. The 911 operator answered, and I quickly explained the situation. I have multiple people in my home refusing to leave, removing my possessions without permission, and attempting to deliver furniture I didn't order. They've forged my signature on documents and are trying to force me out of my own house. The operator assured me officers would be dispatched immediately. After ending the call, I turned to address everyone. The police are on their way, I announced loudly enough for all to hear. Anyone who doesn't live here needs to leave now. The movers need to stop packing my things. The delivery men need to take the baby furniture back. Instead of complying, my parents doubled down. My father approached the movers. Keep working. My son is just emotional right now. Amy burst into tears again, clutching her pregnant belly dramatically. Kevin, how could you do this to your own niece or nephew? Where are we supposed to live now? The same place you were living before Mom and Dad concocted this scheme, I replied. Your apartment. But we gave notice, Jack protested. The landlord already found new tenants. That's not my problem, I said firmly. You made assumptions based on lies. You should have confirmed with me directly before taking such a drastic step. Laura squeezed my hand supportively, then walked over to the movers. Gentlemen, I strongly advise you to stop working. The homeowner has not authorized this move, and the police are on their way. Continuing could implicate you in what's quickly becoming a criminal matter. The lead mover hesitated, looking between Laura and my father. Sir, if there's a dispute about authorization, we need to pause until it's resolved. There's no dispute, my father insisted. Everything is arranged. I held up my phone, showing the forged documents. These signatures are forgeries. I never authorized any move or apartment rental. This gave the movers pause. Their leader signaled his team to stop working while he made a call, presumably to his supervisor. Meanwhile, I went to my home office and quickly retrieved important documents: the house deed, insurance papers, tax records, anything that established my clear ownership. Laura helped me gather valuables and irreplaceable items, securing them in my car just in case. When I returned to the living room, Jack was trying to direct the delivery men to bring the crib upstairs despite my objections. I stepped in front of them on the stairs. That furniture is not coming into my house, I stated firmly. Amy and Jack are not moving in. I am not moving out. Jack's face flushed with anger. Get out of the way, Kevin. You're being ridiculous. No, what's ridiculous is thinking you can take someone's home without their permission. As tensions escalated, my parents attempted a new tactic. My mother approached with a conciliatory expression. Kevin, honey, maybe we rush this a bit. Let's talk about a timeline that works better for you. Perhaps you could stay another month while you adjust to the idea. Her words revealed she still didn't understand or refused to acknowledge the fundamental issue. This wasn't about timing. It was about consent and respect. Mom, I'm not moving. Not in a month. Not ever unless I decide to. This is my house. But we've already started the process, she protested. Your father signed for the studio apartment as your guarantor. The first month's rent is paid. Then Dad can live there, I replied, since he's so convinced it's a great place for a single person. My father turned from where he was attempting to dismantle my dining table. Now you're just being spiteful. No, I'm standing up for myself after you tried to steal my house through fraud and manipulation. Aunt Janet approached, looking uncertain. Susan, is it true? Did Kevin actually agree to this? Or did you and Gary make arrangements without his knowledge? My mother hesitated, and in that pause, the truth was evident. Several relatives exchanged uncomfortable glances. Jack, seeing support waning, decided on a more aggressive approach. He gestured to his father and my cousin Tyler. Let's get the bed out of the master bedroom. Once his stuff is gone, he'll have to accept reality. The three men headed upstairs before I could stop them. Laura immediately followed, phone recording. "Kevin," she called down moments later. "They're trying to take apart your bed frame." I rushed upstairs to find Jack and his helpers removing my mattress from the frame. "Put that back right now," I demanded. "Make us," Jack challenged, continuing to manhandle my mattress. Rather than escalate to physical confrontation, I stood in the doorway. "The police will be here any minute. Do you want to add destruction of property to trespassing and attempted fraud?" From downstairs, Amy called up. "Jack, I need you. The delivery men want us to sign for the furniture." Jack brushed past me roughly, heading downstairs. I followed, concerned about what new chaos was unfolding. In the living room, the delivery men were insisting someone sign for the baby furniture that now sat in boxes on my porch. Amy was attempting to do so, while the confused movers were on the phone with their dispatcher about the disputed authorization. My mother approached me, holding out her hand. "Kevin, we'll need your house keys, since you won't be living here anymore." The audacity was breathtaking. "You're not getting my keys. This is still my house." "Don't be difficult," she persisted. "Amy and Jack will need them this weekend." Before I could respond, Laura returned from the kitchen with a disturbing discovery. "Kevin, look at this," she said, showing me an email on her phone. "I checked the utility accounts like you asked. Your parents have already transferred the electricity, water, and internet service to Amy's name, effective this Saturday." The depths of their planning and presumption continued to shock me. They had orchestrated every detail of this takeover, from forged leases to utility transfers, all without a single honest conversation with me. "How did you access my utility accounts?" I demanded. My father shrugged. "We know all your passwords. We're your parents." "That's illegal," Laura informed him. "Unauthorized access to accounts is a form of identity theft." "We're family," my mother insisted, as if that excused every violation. "Family helps family." "This isn't help," I countered. "This is theft. Of my home, my identity, my autonomy." As if on cue, red and blue lights flashed through the front windows. The police had arrived. 2 police officers approached the house, taking in the unusual scene: boxes and furniture on the lawn, a moving truck in the driveway, and a large gathering of people arguing on my porch and in the front yard. "I'm Officer Williams. This is Officer Chen," the first officer introduced himself. "We received a call about a disturbance and possible trespassing." "That was me," I said, stepping forward. "I'm Kevin Marshall. I own this house, and these people are refusing to leave after I've asked them to. They've brought movers to take my possessions and are trying to force me to move out against my will." My father immediately intervened. "There's been a misunderstanding, officers. We're just helping our son move. Family matter, nothing more." Officer Williams looked between us. "Sir, who owns this property?" "I do," I stated firmly. "I have the deed and all documentation inside." "He does own it," my mother admitted reluctantly. "But we're helping him relocate to a smaller place. He agreed to let his sister and her husband move in." "I never agreed to any such thing," I countered. "They forged my signature on rental documents and have been planning this behind my back for months." The officers exchanged glances. Officer Chen addressed the crowd. "Everyone who doesn't live here, please step back to the sidewalk while we sort this out." Reluctantly, my relatives complied, moving away from the house, but still watching intently. The movers and delivery personnel seemed relieved to have authorities taking charge of the chaotic situation. Officer Williams turned to me. "Mr. Marshall, do you have documentation proving ownership?" "Yes," I confirmed, retrieving the folder of documents Laura and I had gathered. "Here's the deed, my mortgage statements, property tax payments, and homeowner's insurance, all in my name only." The officer reviewed the papers carefully, then asked, "And did you authorize these people to move your belongings or bring items into your home today?" "Absolutely not," I stated firmly. "I've repeatedly asked them to leave, but they've refused. My parents forged my signature on rental agreements for an apartment I never agreed to live in. They've misrepresented the situation to our entire family, claiming I'm having financial difficulties, and agreed to give up my house." Officer Chen was taking notes. And who are all these people exactly? My parents, Gary and Susan Marshall. I indicated them. My sister Amy, and her husband, Jack Thompson. The rest are extended family they called to help with this unauthorized move. We're just trying to help our children, my mother protested tearfully. Amy is pregnant, and they need a proper family home. Kevin has all this space he doesn't need. That's not for you to decide, ma'am. Officer Williams replied firmly. If Mr. Marshall owns this home, only he determines who lives here and what happens to his property. Jack stepped forward aggressively. This is ridiculous. We've already given notice at our apartment. We're supposed to move in this weekend. Where are we supposed to go? We've already given notice. Again, not Mr. Marshall's responsibility if he never agreed to this arrangement, Officer Chen stated. My mother pulled out the rental agreement for the studio apartment, but we've already secured Kevin a new place. Everything is arranged. Officer Williams examined the document. Is this your signature, Mr. Marshall? No, it's forged. I never saw this document before today, let alone signed it. The officer nodded. This could constitute fraud, which is a serious offense. My parents' expressions shifted from indignation to concern as the potential legal ramifications began to sink in. Officer Chen turned to the movers and delivery personnel. I'm going to need to see your work orders and any signed authorizations you have. The lead mover quickly produced his paperwork. We were contracted by Gary Marshall to relocate items from this address to both a studio apartment and a storage facility. The order was placed last week. The deliverymen similarly shared their documents. We have an order to deliver nursery furniture purchased by Amy and Jack Thompson to this address. The items were paid for, but we need a signature for delivery confirmation. Officer Williams examined all the paperwork, then turned to me. Mr. Marshall, none of these documents bear your actual signature or authorization, correct? Correct, I confirmed. I never authorized any move or furniture delivery. The officer nodded, then addressed the service providers. Given the homeowner's statements and the disputed authorization, I recommend you cease operations until this matter is legally resolved. Both the moving team and the delivery personnel seemed relieved to have a clear directive. They began packing up their equipment, despite protests from my family. You can't just leave, Amy cried to the delivery men. What about our baby furniture? Ma'am, we can return the items to the warehouse until you provide a valid delivery address, the lead delivery man explained patiently. As the service providers prepared to depart, my mother made one last desperate attempt. Officers, please. We're just trying to take care of our family. Kevin is being unreasonable. Officer Chen replied firmly, Ma'am, being unreasonable about who lives in the home you own and pay for is every homeowner's right. What's not reasonable is attempting to force someone from their residence against their will. My father tried a different approach. This is just a family disagreement that got out of hand. We don't need police involvement. Actually, sir, Officer Williams countered, what you've described potentially involves several criminal offenses, forgery, fraud, trespassing, and possibly identity theft if accounts were accessed without authorization. This is well within police jurisdiction. While the officers continued speaking with my parents, Amy approached me, tears streaming down her face. Kevin, how could you do this to me? To your niece or nephew? Where are we supposed to go now? For the first time, I felt a flicker of sympathy, though it was tempered by the magnitude of her entitlement. Amy, I would have been happy to help you find a suitable place, or even contribute to a down payment for your own house. But this, I gestured to the chaos around us, was never acceptable. At that moment, a well-dressed woman approached from a car that had just pulled up. She introduced herself to the officers. I'm Jennifer Rodriguez, Mr. Marshall's attorney. Laura had texted her earlier when the situation began escalating. Jennifer quickly assessed the scene, then conferred briefly with me before addressing the officers. My client wishes to press charges for the forgery of his signature on legal documents. He also wants everyone removed from his property immediately, and may seek restraining orders against the primary perpetrators. The officers nodded. We were just explaining to the family that they need to leave the premises. Officer Williams turned to address everyone. Listen up. Everyone who does not live at this residence needs to leave now. The movers and delivery personnel have already agreed to depart. Family members, please return to your vehicles and exit the property. What about our plans? Amy wailed. The nursery! The baby! Ma'am, Officer Chen said firmly but compassionately, I suggest you contact your former landlord immediately to see if your apartment is still available. If not, there are emergency housing options we can direct you toward. As my relatives reluctantly began to disperse under police supervision, Officer Williams took statements from me, Laura, and my parents for the official report. Jennifer advised me on the next legal steps to protect myself from further intrusions. Meanwhile, Officer Chen discovered something significant while examining the documents. Mr. Marshall, it appears your parents have already filed a change of address for you with the Postal Service, redirecting your mail to the studio apartment. They've also listed your house as Amy and Jack Thompson's address on multiple official documents and accounts. The extent of the deception continued to unfold, revealing just how thoroughly my parents had planned this takeover and how much work would be needed to undo their unauthorized changes. As the officers prepared to escort my still protesting parents off the property, my father turned to me with a look of profound disappointment. I never thought you'd choose a house over your own family. This isn't about the house, I replied calmly. It's about respect, honesty, and consent, things family should value above all else. For the first time that day, he seemed to have no response. The weeks following what my friends now jokingly called the Great House Heist were challenging but ultimately transformative. With Jennifer Rodriguez's legal guidance, I navigated the aftermath of my family's betrayal with clarity and purpose. The first priority was security. The day after the police intervention, I had all the locks changed and installed a comprehensive security system. The locksmith whistled when I explained the situation. Family disputes over property are always the messiest, he commented while installing the new deadbolt. Smart move, getting ahead of any potential problems. Jennifer helped me file for temporary restraining orders against my parents, Amy and Jack. The judge granted them after reviewing the police report and seeing the video evidence Laura had recorded. The documentation of forged signatures alone is compelling, Jennifer advised me. But the unauthorized access to your accounts and the attempt to physically remove you from your residence elevates this significantly. Undoing all the changes my parents had made required painstaking effort. I spent hours on the phone with utility companies, reversing the unauthorized transfers. The Postal Service required in-person verification to cancel the fraudulent change of address. Credit monitoring became a new routine as I worked to ensure no other accounts had been compromised. The emotional aftermath was even more complex than the practical one. Laura moved in temporarily to help me recover from the trauma and ensure I wasn't alone if anyone attempted to return against the restraining order. I still can't believe they thought they could just take your house, she said one evening as we sat on the patio, reclaiming the space that had nearly been stolen from me. The level of entitlement is astounding. I think they genuinely convinced themselves they were helping, I replied, still trying to make sense of their actions. They repeated that family helps family line so often. They believed it justified everything. Help doesn't involve forgery and lies, Laura pointed out. Real help respects boundaries. That insight led me to seek therapy, recognizing that processing such a profound betrayal required professional support. Dr. Matthews, a counselor specializing in family trauma, helped me navigate the complex emotions. What you're experiencing is a grief response, she explained during our third session. You're mourning the relationship you thought you had with your parents and sister. I keep wondering if I should have seen the signs earlier, I admitted. There were so many little comments and behaviors that seem obvious in retrospect. Hindsight offers clarity we rarely have in the moment, Dr. Matthews noted. Especially with family, we tend to assume good intentions and overlook concerning patterns. News about the situation rippled through the extended family. Some relatives reached out with apologies after learning they'd been misled about my financial situation and supposed agreement to give up my house. I should have checked with you directly, Aunt Janet admitted during a careful phone conversation. I'm so sorry I participated without questioning what Susan and Gary told us. Others maintained that I should have sacrificed my home for Amy despite the deception. Uncle Rob sent a scathing email claiming I'd destroyed the family over mere property. I filed it away without responding, following Dr. Matthews' advice about setting boundaries with those who couldn't respect mine. 3 months after the incident, Amy gave birth to a healthy baby boy. They named him Robert Gary Thompson, after my father and uncle, a choice that seemed designed to emphasize my exclusion from their new family unit. Through mutual friends, I learned they had found a 2-bedroom apartment in a different suburb and were making do despite the hardship I had allegedly caused them. My parents made one attempt to circumvent the restraining order, sending a mutual friend to reason with me about putting the family back together. The message was clear. They expected me to forgive, forget, and possibly still surrender my home. I declined the meeting, instead extending the restraining orders for an additional 6 months on Jennifer's advice. They haven't acknowledged any wrongdoing, Jennifer pointed out. Until they recognize the severity of their actions, any reconciliation would be premature and potentially dangerous for you. Work provided a welcome distraction during this period. My company was expanding, and I threw myself into new projects, earning recognition and eventually a promotion. The professional success was bittersweet without family to share it with, but it reinforced that I was building a life on my terms. Laura and I grew closer through the crisis. Her unwavering support during my family's betrayal revealed the depth of her character and commitment. 6 months after the Great House heist, what had begun as a temporary arrangement became a conversation about our future together. "I love waking up here with you," she said one Sunday morning as sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows. "Even with everything that happened, this place feels like home. When we're in it together, it feels more like home with you here than it ever did before," I admitted. "Would you consider making it official, moving in permanently?" Her smile was answer enough, but her words made it certain. "I thought you'd never ask." We spent the next weekend reorganizing closets and making space for her belongings, transforming the house that had nearly been taken from me into a home we were building together. The second bedroom, which my parents had designated as Amy's nursery, became Laura's home office, filled with her books and artwork. As months passed, I began reconnecting with select family members who had demonstrated genuine remorse and respect for my boundaries. Cousin Mark and his wife invited us for dinner, carefully avoiding mention of my parents or Amy. "We miss you at family gatherings," Mark admitted, "but we understand why you've stepped back." "I'm not gone forever," I assured him. "I just need time and space to rebuild trust on my terms." Nearly a year after the attempted takeover, Laura and I decided to reclaim the house fully by hosting our own gathering. We invited friends, colleagues, and the few family members who had respected my boundaries throughout the ordeal. The house that had been the site of betrayal became a place of genuine community and connection. My neighbor Diane brought a housewarming gift. "Despite my having lived there for years, it feels like a new beginning," she explained. "Plus, it gave me an excuse to bring my famous lemon cake." One evening, as the 1-year anniversary of the incident approached, Laura and I sat on the back patio, discussing how far we'd come. "Do you ever regret calling the police that day?" she asked thoughtfully. "Given how it changed your family relationships?" I considered the question carefully. "I regret that it was necessary, but not that I did it. Their actions were changing our family relationships long before I involved authorities. I just refused to let them change me too." "What do you mean?" "They wanted me to believe I had no right to my own space, my own choices," I explained, "that my needs were less important than Amy's wants. If I had given in, I would have been accepting that narrative about myself that I deserved less, that my boundaries didn't matter." Laura nodded. "Standing up for yourself wasn't just about keeping the house." "Exactly. It was about maintaining my sense of self-worth and autonomy. The house was just where the battle happened to take place." 2 weeks later, I received an unexpected letter, the first direct communication from my parents, that didn't come through an attorney since the restraining orders were issued. It was brief and carefully worded, likely reviewed by their lawyer. "We have had time to reflect on our actions last year. While we believed we were acting in the family's best interest, we recognize that we violated your trust and autonomy. We are seeking counseling to understand our behavior, and would welcome the opportunity for supervised communication when and if you feel ready. With regret and hope, Gary and Susan Marshall." It wasn't a complete acknowledgement of wrongdoing, but it was a start, the first crack in the wall of justification they had built around their actions. I showed the letter to Dr. Matthews during our next session. This represents progress, she observed. But reconciliation, if you choose to pursue it, should proceed slowly and with clear boundaries. I'm not ready yet, I admitted, but I might be someday. 6 months after Laura moved in permanently, we decided to host a housewarming party that doubled as an engagement celebration. Standing in the backyard surrounded by friends who had supported us through everything, I felt a profound sense of peace and rightness. A year and a half ago, I almost lost this house, I said during an impromptu toast. But what I've gained since then is so much more valuable clarity about what matters, who I am, and the kind of life I want to build. Laura squeezed my hand as I continued. I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is set a boundary. I learned that true family respects your autonomy rather than trying to control your choices. And most importantly, I learned that home isn't just about the physical space, it's about creating a place where everyone's dignity and agency are honored. As our friends raised their glasses, I looked around at the house that had become a battleground and then a sanctuary. The attempted theft of my home had led to something unexpected, a stronger sense of ownership not just of my property, but of my life and choices. The irony wasn't lost on me. In trying to take my house, my parents had inadvertently given me a more profound understanding of what home truly means. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with family members who believed they were entitled to make decisions about your life? What gave you the strength to stand firm? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life experiences about finding your voice and protecting your boundaries. Share with someone who might need encouragement to stand up for themselves. Thank you for listening to my journey from betrayal to rebuilding. Remember, true family supports your autonomy rather than undermining it.